Are you tired of being single on Valentine's Day? Don't know how to confess your love? Or have you felt the urge to write your significant other a Spenserian sonnet from the 1500s? Well, this is how you win the heart of your significant other and your English teacher. In 4 easy steps, we'll teach you how to write a Spenserian love sonnet.
Today, we'll be using One Day I Wrote Her Name Upon the Strand by Edmund Spenser as our example to break down. Spenser was one of the most effective poets of his time period. In fact, there's even a sonnet structure named after him called the Spenserian sonnet.
Let's read the poem. One day I wrote her name upon the strand, but came the waves and washed it away. Again I wrote it with the second hand, but came the tide and made my pains his prey. Vain man, she said, that dost in vain essay, a mortal thing so to immortalize. For I myself shall like to this decay, and eke my name be wiped out likewise. Not so, quoth I, let baser things devise, to die in dust, but you shall live by fame. My verse your virtues rare shall eternize, and in the heavens write your glorious name. Where whenas death shall all the world subdue, our love shall live and later life renew.
His poem is essentially a promise to his lover that he'll keep her legacy and their love alive, even after their eventual and inevitable death. This sonnet is a fragment taken from Spenser's longer poem, Amoretti, which means little notes or cupids, that was published in 1595. Amoretti was divided into 89 shorter sonnets that, when combined, make up this entire poem. 89 sonnets, but today guys can't even text back.
It was dedicated to his lover and eventual wife, Elizabeth Boyle. The specific sonnet focuses on their eternal spiritual love and fleeting physical love. The 1500s are a little different than the 2000s. Instead of being considered young and capable in your 20s, you were middle-aged. Can you imagine? When Elizabeth Boyle married Edmund Spenser, she was only 18. I don't know about you, but I'm not ready for married life yet. The short life expectancy of this time period feeds directly into the emphasis Spenser places on death. He had already lived long past the life expectancy during that time, so this means that he was most likely always thinking about when he could die. He wrote this poem 4 years before his death, so before you call him ghoulish, know his circumstances.
Step 1. Use a conceit. In order to write the most romantic sonnet, and this goes especially to you guys out there, use some kind of extended metaphor. Even if it's something cliche as comparing your love to a drug, this will be much more effective and sentimental than just being literal. In Spenser's poem, he simultaneously introduces his conceit as well as paints a picture with imagery. Right at the start, the conceit of the waves on the strand is introduced. Spenser foolishly tries to immortalize his wife's name on the strand, but the tide washes away the name of his lover, referring to her eventual death.
The tides are the subject of the entire first quatrain, and they present the issue that will be discussed in the sonnet. It continues into the second stanza as the wife compares her death to the wiping out done by the tide. In line 3, Spenser says he wrote it with the second hand, meaning he tried twice to immortalize his love for his wife. Interestingly, Boyle is Spenser's second wife, leading to a possible subtle reference of both lovers. Although we choose to believe he's simply emphasizing his desire to keep his current wife forever. No, do not make references to your ex in your sonnet.
Step 2. Choose an appropriate sonnet structure. Spenser, an expert on love, had his own unique Spenserian sonnet structure. Take note of these important aspects that will help you replicate your own Spenserian sonnet. First, the rhyme pattern starts with the same rhyme scheme of the last quatrain. This continuity creates a sonnet that is all tightly connected. Although he uses 3 quatrains to separate his messages, in his case, the problem, his wife's response, and his response, it tells one big story.
Next, Spenser was famous for his fake voltas. Although it seems the volta would appear after line 8, the second quatrain, it actually appears right before the couplet. By having a fake volta and starting the third quatrain with a contradicting word, Spenser says he disagrees with his wife's statement that she would die with her temporary name. However, he only speaks of her name and her possible fame. It isn't until the couplet and after the real volta that Spenser shifts into speaking in inclusive language. There's greater emphasis on our love, and he presents his final thoughts that they may serve as a resolution. So while his fake voltas are good and essential to his Spenserian sonnet, try to limit this as the only fake thing in the relationship.
Step 3. Make it personal and be vulnerable. Your lover wants to know that it was your efforts that you put into this sonnet, so don't be afraid to make it personal and specific. For Spenser, the whole idea is that he is going to preserve her legacy through his own poetry. He says in response to his lover, "My verse your virtues rare shall eternize," essentially claiming that his poetry is going to keep her name alive forever. What's important to take note of is that Spenser isn't just saying he wants to keep her alive forever. In the second stanza, his lover believes he's being unrealistic and too prideful with this objective, comparing her eventual and unavoidable death to the tides washing away the shore. Instead, he responds by making it clear that he will create a legacy for her to be noted and remembered forever through his poetry.
It is also clear that Spenser had true feelings for his wife, evident through the vulnerability in his poem. When he writes, "But came the tide and made my pains his prey," he personifies the tides, which categorizes the waves as a predator who is targeting him. Spenser isn't afraid to show his fears for their future together, creating the image of a sensitive and caring lover.
Step 4. Don't be bored. Not that sonnets are long, but in order to not bore your significant other, add some attention-grabbing alliteration. Spenser gives us not one, but multiple examples of this. Examples throughout the whole poem include, "Our love shall live and later life renew." Where, when, as, death shall all the world subdue. My verse your virtues, and pains his prey. His alliteration creates a rhythm that carries the text forward. The sharp-sounding tone sets a passionate mood and seems to reflect Spenser firmly reinforcing his message. Plus, it makes for a fun-sounding poem you could rap if you wanted.
Just to recap, Spenser uses devices like conceits, imagery, personification, alliteration, and most importantly, his own Spenserian sonnet structure that features fake voltas and connecting rhyme schemes. This poem is filled with references to his personal life, always keeping in mind his lifespan and his eternal love for his wife. It all ties in to create an effective love sonnet because of its consideration for the reader. The story-creating, image-painting words make it easy for the reader to follow his message, and it turns the 3 words, I love you, into 14 lines. So if you're looking for a relationship advice, take it from this guy. His wife was with him until death, even if it was at 47